So I am confusion.
I feel like it's borderline impossible to talk about Durandal without mentioning the real Kiana theory, which is something that's been floating around for a while. In this video, I will be evaluating how likely, or rather, how unlikely this theory is. Apart from telling you why I think this is the case, I will also offer my own perspective on her background along with the role she will be playing in the Honkai story, which is, to say the least, more important than I anticipated. So Durandal is a character that has comparatively been very mysterious, having most of her information found in various sources outside the game. The thing is that most information we got on her requires much interpretation to make sense of. Because of this, there have been many speculations regarding many aspects of her. The most notable that has recently been brought up is the theory which reasons that Durandal is the real Kiana. Out of all the talks I could find on this, by far the most comprehensive is a video made by a YouTuber named Kotla. So I will be using this video as a reference to debunk it step by step. I also need to make it clear that I do not intend to make the YouTuber look bad, as this is only for the purpose of starting a discussion. With that out of the way, let's take a look at the evidence that supports this claim. First is the fact that Durandal does not have any memories of her background. In fact, many people have pointed out a scene which implied memory manipulation, which is this scene. This scene bears a striking resemblance to another one from the epilogue of Second Eruption, particularly the peeling of an apple, which Otto was doing when he was playing around with Teresa's memory. The notion was that Otto wiped the real Kiana's memory clean using the Honkai, along with changing her appearance to give her a new identity. It was done to prevent her from getting snatched again by Siegfried. The problem I have with this is that there were no instances that came close to anything of this extent. This is what I realized upon some introspection after I worked on my own theory video on Alicia a while back. We never saw Honkai completely alter how a person operates. The same can be said for the hair color. And mind you, the mimics that were created using the Void archives are known to be much weaker than the actual one. For example, we can look at the Smash mimic that Otto created, which for the real deal is generally dangerous to even pull up in the first place. So the Honkai mimic Otto would be using to completely transform the real Kiana's identity should not be expected to be able to perform something that is more than what the real thing was actually used for. Anyways, I also want to bring up why the real Kiana was allowed to exist in the first place. From the manga Second Eruption, the reason Otto allowed Cecilia and Siegfried to be together was to potentially create a mega Herrscher killer for Schicksal. This dedicated role is usually occupied by the strongest Valkyrie Schicksal has to offer, and so far it always has been the Abyss Flower that was used as their main weapon. Durandal is the current holder of this title. Before her, there were many names like Rihanna and Cecilia. The thing is that it has been said that the Abyss Flower has a high requirement in order to be wielded, like how Kevin Ex Machina expressed his surprise when he saw that Schicksal was able to train someone that was able to use the Abyss Flower. So because the weapon is fairly inaccessible, replacing the former user in the event of a loss would be a monumental task. This would perfectly fit the bill for Otto to bring real Kiana under his control. But here's the thing, sure, Otto can put the real Kiana up for this task, but it wouldn't solve the lack of candidates to replace her if she was to perish. To this, I have a much better, more efficient solution. I'm going to make an assumption that traits or powers related to Honkai can be inherited through genes. This will make the solution I'm about to suggest make that much more sense. Imagine you're Otto. Wouldn't it be nice if there were a steady supply of people able to wield the Abyss Flower? I propose cloning Cecilia to be used as a framework for future Abyss Flower users. In the AE Invasion manga, Teresa was shown the real application of Otto's cloning. In the tube shown, there were many clones that resembled Cecilia, and mind you, this was 2016 in game-wise, which was more than a decade after Otto successfully created Kiana to be the vessel for the Herrscher of the Void. The thing was that this was the main goal of the project, which was already achieved. So why would he still continue to create and keep more variants around when he already have successfully achieved what he set out to do? From what I established, you can probably guess what I think these clones are here for. There is no doubt that Durandal has similar features to Cecilia, save for the blonde hair color. But guess who's also blonde? You see, with someone Otto actually cares about, they would sometimes be seen wearing something that has the mark of the Apocalypse House on it. Many times such marks are used to signify a character's status. For example, Kiana's hoodie has a slash mark of Jigsaw on the back to convey her severed ties with the organization. Durandal has also worn similar clothing like this one, which is implying that similar to Teresa, she has a certain significance to Otto. What I'm trying to say is that Durandal in a way is Otto's daughter. This would explain why Otto seems to act differently around Durandal as pointed out in her entries, because there isn't any reason for Otto to act nicely towards her if she was the real Kiana, who is not related to him in any way. I don't think it's a stretch to infer that Durandal's hair color might have came from Otto. With that aside, there are still some other clues that was brought up in the aforementioned video. That's her name, Bianca Artegina, which to quickly summarize can be translated to white and reborn. Many would think this is a conclusive evidence, but it doesn't change the fact that the word white could also be referring to more people than Kiana. It could either be referring to any of the white-haired characters like Kellen, Cecilia, and Kiana. I think this is where we can all decide for ourselves which of them Durandal more closely resembled. Regardless of whether what I just said for the past few minutes held any truth, I can still talk about what Otto sees Durandal as, apart from making a dedicated Hershey killer. There's this very interesting conversation between Otto and Durandal from that scene I used earlier in the video. In this scene, Otto was visiting Durandal to take her for a walk, during which he told her a story of a princess who fell in love with a prince. Basically, the princess became obsessed with him, resorting to commit various horrible things in the name of her love for the prince. The prince became scared of her, and in the end, the princess killed her and the princess's own children. Durandal asked him why he told her this story and was told, and I quote, "Because one day you might meet someone similar, and when the time comes, I pray you would sympathize with the princess." End quote. This is rather ironic seeing what Otto is doing right now, but this conversation made me think that Otto made Durandal to be the person who would stop him in whatever he would be doing in the future. Reading down a little, we would see Otto assigning Rita to take care of Durandal because of, and I quote again, "Sooner or later, just like her predecessors, Bianca will realize that the overseer is not the person she thought she knew. Rather, he is the exact opposite. Once that time comes, will she be able to remain calm enough? It's up to you." End quote. It's almost like when you enter Jigsaw and come to a certain point, you will almost certainly have some kind of conflict with the organization itself. Durandal was Otto's vision for the perfect leader of Jigsaw, which is not something he thought of himself as. It was probably the reason why he chose to hand over the overseer title to her. You know, looking at it this way also makes Otto look ever slightly better in the grand scheme of things, as he at least doesn't leave Jigsaw in shambles like an irresponsible bastard. Still doesn't excuse his crimes though. But what do you think? I want to know what your thoughts are on the relationship between these two. If you want to watch the theory video from Kotla, then please check the description for a link to the video. If you need some more context on why Durandal is doing what she's doing right now, then you can check out my last video where I delve into her motivations for her recent action. Anyways, that's it for today. Until next time. But luckily there's just enough for us to draw a conclusion from. To explain this, I need to bring up the manga second key.